All right, we are back with another Humans of Grappling, and now that I got the setup down, I've got the kind of creation flow set up. I don't know, maybe I'll crank a couple of these out a week around specific topics, but maybe it's me rehashing the same topic in a different way potentially. So today's episode is around losing and iterating. If that sounds familiar, because I have also recently covered it on previous episodes, but maybe this is a different take or a different, I don't know, a different way of putting it, right? So, of course, I need to do promotion. So, rate and review the podcast helps out, puts me in the algorithms, gets people more exposed to these ideas. If you're interested, just drop a like or a 5-star or whatever. You know what to do. So, losing and iterating. Friend of the show, Ryan Shaloya, always refers to the pain teacher. And I think there's something fundamental about that. And according to ecological dynamics and whatnot, like that's ultimately what we learn by, is through sensing pain either in ourselves or through others, right? I've used this example before. You put your hand on the stove, you do it for yourself, you understand the fullness of that lesson, you feel the heat on your skin, maybe it hurts for a while, for a couple days afterwards, maybe blisters or whatever, right? You fully deal with the consequences of the lesson. Versus learning from others, you see it. You see the effects kind of secondhand. You don't actually feel what they feel. Say if you watch your sibling touch the stove and they are like, and you see them react to that given situation, and you make a mental note, oh, hey, don't do that, right? But those, like, you don't have that firsthand experience. You don't have the full breadth and depth of the lesson. So I think this is similar to like jiu-jitsu and technique and whatnot. Is like it's knowledge of versus knowledge about, right? You can get the knowledge about a given technique or a position or whatever, but until you feel somebody literally smothering you or whatever the technique is, you don't fully understand it, right? You don't fully appreciate the ultimate form of this is like I think I recently saw this clip of some podcaster interviewing Nate Diaz. He's like, you sure you can take me a street fight, bro? And this guy's 260 pounds, like bodybuilder, probably hasn't ran whatever in 20 years or something, right? Like he probably just lifts, and that's lifting for high reps is his cardio, and he probably doesn't fully appreciate what Nate Diaz is capable of in terms of fight skill. And jiu-jitsu is the same way. You have to see it to believe it. You have to feel it, not even just see it. Like you can see somebody pinning somebody down, and maybe this is why this is such a hard. Jiu-jitsu is a hard sell to kind of casual audiences because they don't necessarily understand what's going on down there, right? Once the fight hits the ground, all the normies for UFC fights, at least, are like, stand them up, let them bang, bro. Like, just let them like punch each other, kick each other. Like that's more entertaining, and they can understand what's going on. Versus jiu-jitsu, it probably immediately goes to the ground, or it's a snooze fest, and they're just collar tying each other and standing around for 10 minutes, right? Like it either goes either way, right? It's either super exciting and there's a lot of positional grappling, jousting. I was going to use a different word, but grappling, like literal grappling going on. on the ground, or things are kind of boring and for sure gi is very boring to watch because you get a set of grips and you can just keep those grips the whole time, and it's not too dynamic. Like audiences like to see changes in position and movement and whatnot like that. That's things that people like to see, are entertained by. Pixels moving across a screen ultimately, or to some degree, like if they're watching remotely or in person, like that's more or less what happens, right? Like we like changes in our visual field for whatever reason. That's entertaining. So you can see something happen and you can kind of get a sense of, oh shit, like Gordon Ryan is holding down whoever, right, for 10 minutes. Or Gordon Ryan hasn't submitted Philippe Pena for 20 minutes, but he's kind of playing with him. Or like you can kind of understand that, oh, this high level guy is making this other high level guy look like he doesn't even know jiu-jitsu, right? So you can get a sense of it, but you don't actually feel what it's like to be at that high level, or to like grapple with somebody who actually really knows what they're doing. And maybe that's why jiu-jitsu is super humbling, and other, I like to call these capital H, capital T, hard things in life. Like real skills are generally humbling because you can see somebody do it. You can see, like my friend Alex Rojas, he's really into archery. He does jiu-jitsu at 10 Plant Walnut Creek. Shout out to him. He posts archery and he like goes hunting and stuff like that. So like I can see him do it, and I've only done archery like a handful of times, but I can only when I like actually do it, I appreciate how hard it is. Same thing with like chess or I guess programming. If you've never done programming before, you kind of bash your head in trying to figure out what's going on in terms of the code, or what the computer is actually saying, and how the whole setup works, or how even a computer works, right? Like there are certain things where it's real skills butt up into actually changing the world around you. I guess maybe that's the best definition that I can come up with on a podcast, like kind of on the fly here, is that if you can manipulate the environment around you, it's probably a hard skill. It's probably like in a valuable way, I guess. Like we can manipulate the environment on our phones really easily, right? Like we can, it's literally designed to do that. It's designed like Instagram Reels. You ever wonder why it's called a reel? Like, I don't know. Most of my audience is probably in Vegas, and you know what the psychological hack of like seeing these things swipe up and slot machine reels. It's probably for the same reason. Like for whatever reason, we like seeing visual things slide up and down vertically, and that's somehow hacks our psychology into, oh, let's make it swipe up more, let's swipe down, swipe. Like all this is specifically designed. It didn't start recently. Like we have been working on this for a very long time. Slot machines in particular are designed to hijack the feel-good centers of your brain to like keep putting money in and be like, oh, maybe I can win next time or whatever, right? It makes you feel like you're having some kind of effect on the environment when you're probably you aren't. You're just putting money in, and the machine is programmed to make you feel like you're close or whatever, right, to getting a big payout. So you don't. So anyways, getting back to kind of like the pain teacher and how things are knowledge of versus knowledge about, and you either observe, if you're really, I guess people say it's a sign of intelligence if you can like learn a lesson without having to like pay the cost of it, right? But I guess my counter, or my ecological argument against that is that, do you actually learn the lesson? Do you really learn the lesson? Do you fully understand? Like, yeah, for certain things, you really don't want to gamble all your money on black, right? Like, you don't really want to actually learn the lesson of, like, whatever, losing all your money. You don't actually really want to learn the lesson of, I don't know, quitting your job with no, I'm naming all these like financial things, but you could, like, relationship things or whatever else, right? Like, you don't, for some things are one-way streets. Like, you can't roll back the consequences of your actions, right? But for certain things that you can develop skill in, you have multiple iterations. You can basically only iterate to get better, right? For example, jiu-jitsu, you get tapped. All right, slap bump, ready to go. Like, you try to do something different again, right? A merciful upper belt will tap you in like 5 different ways in a round, right? But if they are, I don't know, but depending who you get, maybe they just tap you with the same thing over and over again, and until you figure it out, right? Or until you stop and ask them, hey, what are you doing? Or because you're not changing, you're not learning from that pain teacher that they're trying to give you, right? So there's this kind of, in that process, you have to kind of stop and reflect and be like, all right, what am I doing wrong here? What's leading me to feel the consequences of my actions, right? To actually feel this. But you get to do it over and over and over again for certain things. For hard skills, hard things, you don't get to, there's, like, it wouldn't be a skill if you only got one shot at it, right? Because, okay, so to pull in Taleb, Nassim Taleb, in Fooled by Randomness, he talks about stock traders and how somebody who, it doesn't matter. Like, yes, Warren Buffett is like one of the best investors of all time, but given enough time, like, somebody can bet the house like 100 different times and still become Warren Buffett, right? Like, there's always going to be somebody with the most amount of money, regardless of anybody's skill. Yes, Warren Buffett has a lot of skill, and he's proven through decades. He's withstood the test of time. He hasn't lost his shirt. He has plenty of skill, but there's also a certain element of randomness, that a certain amount of luck that he has taken advantage of and benefited from. So where I was going with that is that for certain professions, he talks about dentists versus I forget the other profession, like stock traders or economists or whatever, right? Dentists, like, they drill hundreds of teeth a week, thousands of teeth over their career, or thousands to tens of thousands of teeth over their career, right? Like, they have this hard skill of, like, doing the thing over and over and over again, and they get better and better and better at it. Versus if you just pick stocks for a living, you could go on a lucky streak and think that that is a skill, but you could just be getting lucky, right? Like, nobody wants to get their teeth drilled by a lucky dentist, right? You don't perceive that to be, I was like, oh, well, I did a perfect filling or a perfect root canal or whatever. You don't expect that to change wildly from iteration to iteration, right? So same thing with jiu-jitsu and black belts, right? Like, the black belt in jiu-jitsu is such a high bar that anybody coming in off the street in a grappling context, has like zero chance against a black belt. Even if they have like a equivalent like martial arts background or judo or whatever, yeah, sure, you can throw me to the ground, but then you're going to get submitted because judo doesn't specialize in all of the different attacks that jiu-jitsu does, right? Judo is very good at arm bars or maybe even lapel chokes or something like that. But given the breadth of skills that you have to develop in jiu-jitsu, skills and like attacking and defending, it's very, very low probability, close to zero, vanishingly small, that anybody coming in new, walking in off the street has any chance of like catching a black belt in any kind of submission, beating them in any kind of way, right? So same thing in programming, like or name any other hard skill, like all of these, like reaching a certain level in all of these takes lots and lots and lots of iterations to get better at it. Thousands even. I think I estimate I've done deep half probably, I don't know, like say at my peak, like, I don't know, 5 to 10 times a day for 5 days a week for years. Anyways, I've done deep half live thousands of times, and I've drilled it a handful of times, right? The rest of the times were live, like real live resistance. So that's why I think I've a pretty decent deep half. At one point I made like kind of an arrogant Instagram post and got reposted. I was like, all right, I've got a top 5 deep half in the world. Like Jeff Glover, Tom DeBlas, and Ryan Hall are ahead of me, but I might be like, I don't know, 4th or 5th, right? And I got reposted by Tom DeBlas, which is hilarious. So anyways, that iterative of a skill, there's very little chance, if you haven't trained before, that I'm not sweeping you with my deep half. Like there's a very, very low probability that you have. I've seen all of the reactions. I know all the different possibilities there. I've seen, like, people have tried. I've seen most of them. I will be a little humble and be like, all right, maybe there's something crazy that somebody can do from there that I haven't seen before, right? But it's this iterative process. I've done it thousands of times in a live situation, and have collected real data on it, right? Like real, that is modeled, is trained, like, to connect this to AI. It's trained my neural network in order to react to different people's deep half defense. Like I recognize what different people are trying to do at different times. So, anyways, overall, you want to try to find the games, like not in a jiu-jitsu ecological context, but like games in life, the things, the hard skills, the hard things that allow you to iterate on them and gain mastery in one or a handful of them, right? That's what makes people valuable in the world. That's what makes people like contributing members of society. So you're seeking a pain teacher, like because you can like read all the books, you can read all about even like doing math. You could read everything about math, but until you put pen to paper, like you don't actually know how to do it. You don't actually know, okay, this equation, then we need to plug this equation into this equation, and like you're not a writer if you don't write. You're not a mathematician unless you like put pen to paper and like try to solve some things. That's why we don't have like just multiple choice tests in math, right? We just you have to show your work. You have to show your steps of the progression of your thinking. Same thing in programming. Like we have lines of code. This line, then you like build a set of logic to do something with that. We set a string here, then we take that string, we manipulate it somehow, then we return it to whoever called us, right? If we're a function. So unless you actually do that, you can read about it as much as you want, but reading is like a free thing. Like that's not where value is created. Like value is created by people doing stuff, manipulating their environment for other people in exchange for money, or not. Like you can be valuable to other people like for free. Like you can show people cool jiu-jitsu stuff and like not get paid for it, right? People do that all the time in the gym. Like they pay for the privilege of having the mat space and coming in and having safe people to train with and whatnot. Like people share knowledge all the time and it's value, but like nobody's changing money or whatever unless you book a private lesson or something, right? So for hard skills, you kind of have to go through a painful process in order to get better at it. And you have to kind of enjoy that process. You have to enjoy seeking discomfort, at least not pain that is going to completely set you back or completely wipe you out or anything like that, but just a little bit of discomfort to challenge you, to grow you, to become anti-fragile in the Nassim Taleb sense. You have to be open to losing, taking chances and failing, but don't do it kind of mindlessly. Not don't do it just to do it. Don't do it just to grind, bro. But you have to kind of incorporate it into a feedback loop of like, okay, what am I doing here? Why did I fail? What went wrong? You have to have that sense of reflection in order to iterate, in order to change your direction just a little bit and then try something new and try something a little bit failing better. I think that's like a famous essay or something. So understand why you failed and what happened leading up into the failure. If that painful or discomfort, whatever your threshold that you're trying to achieve here is. And the last thing is Alex Hormozy cites the rule of 100. I use it too. I kind of came to it independently. I noticed as a junior engineer, I spent a lot of iterations trying to fix my code. And luckily for me, my job involves numbered builds. So like I could actually see how many times I tried something and failed. And I got to see the actual number because sometimes if you just run things in your computer, the computer doesn't like number, this is trial number 5 or 75 or whatever, right? But in this tool that I use called Jenkins, these jobs number the builds, and I get to see how much I've tried. And I noticed that like I would get frustrated if I couldn't get it by 30, but I usually got it around like 70 or 80 normally, and at the very worst case like 100 something. But that's after like somebody changes their mind or some new requirement came in or whatever. If something took that long, then something went wrong, terribly wrong, right? But I can normally hammer out something in like 50 to 100 trial and errors, basically. So give yourself that grace. Give yourself that space to try and fail and not get frustrated right away, because you will see progress on the 100th try for sure, if you give yourself enough time to try that. Don't give up on the first or second or third or 10th even. Basically, yeah, just keep trying. That's a message. So I'm putting out these podcasts in shorter form, and these are trials themselves. So let me know. I think I'm going to actually enable a fun feature where you can like call in and leave messages and I can respond to them or whatnot. So call in, I guess, or leave a comment in Spotify. I'll read those, or comment on YouTube. I'll get a little bit of interaction going and kind of jump off. Use topics or whatever that you write in with, and kind of talk about them, and we'll see where that goes. All right. I'll see you guys next time.